Let us start reading the poem. The casualties are not only those who are dead. While discussing the title, I said that the basic meaning of the word casualty, the first meaning of the word casualty is death, civilian casualties, military casualties. But here the poet challenges the concept that casualty must necessarily mean death. The casualties are not only those who are dead. That is the traditional meaning of the word casualty. But in the context, in the present context, in the context of the Nigerian Civil War, in the context of the Biafran War, the poet says that the casualties are not only those who are dead, they are well out of it. The dead, traditionally looked upon as casualties, enjoy a unique advantage. They are well out of it. All their problems come to an end at one stroke. Life cannot bother them anymore. War cannot trouble them anymore. Starvation cannot affect them anymore. They are well out of it. Hence, the poet says that the casualties are not only those who are dead. The casualties are not only those who are dead. The poet repeats the idea once again. The basic idea, the first idea of casualty is death. The poet says once again, the casualties are not only those who are dead, though they await burial by installment. When a huge number of people die at the same time, they cannot be buried without waiting for the burial. They can only be buried by installment. They have to wait their turn. They have to reach burial step by step, stage by stage. They have to await burial by installment. I would like to point out that some versions replace the word dead with the word wounded. The casualties are not only those who are wounded, though they await burial by installment. I understand that when the poem was published for the first time, this was how it was. And I personally think that this is a better version. The casualties are not only those who are wounded, because the poet first talks of death, people who are dead, who are looked upon as casualties, and he says they are not the only one, they are not the only ones who are casualties, and then he comes to the wounded. The casualties are not only those who are wounded, though they await burial by installment. I think if the word is wounded and not dead, we can say that they're so seriously wounded that they are moving towards their death, stage by stage, step by step. They are moving towards their burial, stage by stage, step by step, and they await burial by installment. But the poet's point is that not merely the dead, not merely the wounded are the casualties in the context, in the terrible context created by the Nigerian Civil War. The poet now comes to his third idea. The casualties are not only those who are lost persons or property. First, there was the dead. Then there was the wounded. And now the poet says The casualties are not only those who are lost persons or property. This is certainly a kind of casualty. But the poet says that these are not the only type of casualties. There are people who have lost persons, there are people who have lost property, but they are not the only kind of casualties. The casualties are not only those who are lost persons or property, hard as it is to grape for a touch that some may not know is not there. How beautifully has the poet put it. You lose someone you love very much, but you are not fully aware of the loss. You are unable to come to terms fully with it. And so you grape. To grape means to search blindly, uncertainly, as in darkness. You grape for a touch that some may not know is not there. The touch is not there. The touch can never ever be there because the person you're looking for is lost, is dead. But again, the poet says, these are not the only kinds of casualties. As I said, it's a step by step progression, or better still, a stage by stage expansion. The poet admits that it is hard to lose persons and property. This has happened to so many people in the midst of the Biafran war, and it is hard to wait for a touch which never arrives because the person who is expected to touch you no longer exists. However, the poet's point is that even these alone cannot constitute the category, the semantic category of casualties. The casualties are not only those led away by night. This area of the poem gives us an idea of the state of Nigerian society at the time of the Civil War. It seems to be a place of absolute anarchy. Anybody can be arrested at any point of time without rhyme or reason. The casualties are not only those led away by night. The cell is a cruel place. You are arrested, you are thrown into a prison cell. It's certainly a cruel place. It's lacking even in the basic amenities. And sometimes you are subjected to torture in the prison cell. The cell is a cruel place, sometimes a haven. Still, the poet says that it can be a haven. It can be a place of refuge. It can be a place of safety because that is the state of the society. That is the state of the country. Nowhere is absolute as the grave. The poet is certainly writing with his tongue in his cheek. The prison cell is a haven, can be a haven. That itself is humorous. Now the poet says, though the prison cell, despite being a cruel place, is a haven, is a place of safety, is a place of refuge, it is not as good a haven as the grave. Nowhere is absolute as the grave. The grave is certainly an absolute haven. When life becomes absolutely unbearable, death becomes a welcome refuge. The point that the poet is trying to make is that those who are arrested without rhyme or reason at the dead of night, even they are not the only Casualties.